In the blistering heat of the Wild West Plains, where the dust rose high with every gallop of a stallion and men carved their reputations out of land, liquor, and lead, there lived a rancher by the name of Caleb Dyer, a man both envied and despised in equal measure. His sprawling herds grazed on land that stretched so far a man could ride a day and still not find the fence line. His pockets jingled with gold coins and silver dollars, and yet his pride weighed heavier than all the cattle he owned. For Caleb was not content with wealth alone. He wanted to conquer hearts, bend wills, and break spirits just to prove that none in the county could stand above him. And it was during one smoky evening at the saloon, when cards slapped against wood and whiskey burned down the throats of restless cowhands, that a cruel bet was laid across the table. A bet that would entangle him in a secret darker than the blackest prairie night. The challenge came from a fellow rancher, half jealous and half drunk, who sneered that for all Caleb's wealth, he couldn't charm the widow May Thornton, the lone woman who lived at the edge of town, quiet, resilient, with grief carved into her face, but dignity wrapped around her shoulders like a shawl. For May was not a woman swayed by silver tongues or heavy purses, and Caleb, stung by pride and laughter echoing around the table, slammed his glass down and swore that within a week he would not only share her bed, but her heart. And the crowd roared with the kind of mean-spirited cheer only whiskey could bring, never knowing the storm that oath would summon. The very next morning, Caleb rode out, spurs jangling, boots dusty, and with arrogance, riding his shoulders as proudly as the colt on his hip. He knocked on the widow's cabin door, expecting perhaps a timid smile, perhaps the shy flutter of lashes, but what greeted him instead was the steady gaze of a woman who had buried her husband with her own hands, who had plowed fields when no man came to help, who had stared down starvation and despair, and still rose each morning with fire in her blood. May's eyes didn't flinch, didn't soften, and when Caleb tipped his hat and flashed the grin that had melted dozens of saloon girls, her lips barely twitched as she asked what business a man like him had with a woman like her. He spun lies dressed as compliments, offered help she did not need, and lingered long enough to plant seeds of charm where there was only stone. Yet slowly, through persistence and the kind of reckless determination only pride could fuel, Caleb found cracks in the armor of her solitude, sharing suppers at her table, mending fences beside her, telling stories that made her laugh when the evening lantern burned low. And for the first time in years, she felt warmth she thought had died with her husband. So one night, beneath a sky full of stars and silence, Caleb stayed, and though it began as a cruel wager, what passed between them in that cabin was more than conquest, more than lust. It was something that startled even him, for when dawn broke and May whispered the truth she had never told another soul, Caleb's blood ran cold as winter's wind. His cocky smile vanished, and the weight of her revelation crushed him more heavily than any debt or duel he had ever faced. May, with eyes glistening not from weakness, but from the rawness of memory, confessed that her late husband had not died from sickness, as folks believed, nor from an accident on the ranch, but from a secret murder that linked directly to Caleb's own family's fortune, a truth so vicious that it explained the silence of certain nights and the shadows behind certain men's wealth. And as she laid it bare, Caleb realized that the riches he flaunted were soaked in blood, blood that might as well have been spilled by his own hand. And the fire in May's eyes told him she had known all along who he was, what legacy he carried, and that she had led him close not out of weakness, but to see if he was strong enough to face the truth, to reckon with the sins his family had buried. And in that moment, the bet he had taken for pride turned to ash in his mouth, his heart thundering with a fear no pistol could shoot down. For May had not only stolen his arrogance, she had thrust him into a reckoning that would change the course of both their lives forever.